Today we're looking at 10 things you didn't know about Aptera, from how the company outsmarted NASA to the time it was on Family Guy and asking that age-old question, does it float? We're gonna get into all this and a lot more, but first up, a secret knock to open everything all at once. By now you've probably heard of Knock Knock, 2 knocks near a door or trunk, and it opens right up. But what you may not have known is that the team is experimenting with this secret knock to open both doors and the trunk all at once. During an Instagram Live in September, we learned that the company is considering sunroof options after the initial launch. A sunroof on Aptera is still a very early concept, but would be super sleek and elevate an already S-tier design. Engineering and design improvements will be constantly rolled into the production line as soon as they're ready, rather than waiting years for the next generation. This means that Aptera Order 40,000 will be better than Order 4000, which will be better than Order 400. So ordering an Aptera now gives you all the advantages that come with steady improvements over time. Scan the QR code or see the link below to save $30 on the $100 deposit. Aptera will also get better over time thanks to over-the-air updates. Some of the popular over-the-air updates we've heard floated by Aptera so far are an anti-theft or sentry mode, pet mode, automatically keeping the vehicle at a comfortable temperature on a hot or cold day, and remotely controlling the temperature from the mobile app, plus developing a feature-rich app. The company has said it wants to produce a vehicle with exceptional hardware as soon as possible, all the while leaving a world of possibilities open for software updates over time. But even with the over-the-air updates and constantly rolling improvements into the production line, the vehicle itself is not expected to radically change over time. Like a Porsche, the design and parts will stay fairly constant year over year. Not only that, but future Aptera vehicles will be designed with the same family of parts, sharing as many parts as possible with the first vehicle. Mechanically, Aptera is very simple and can be worked on with common hand tools. In fact, the part count is a quarter of a normal car. The entire vehicle is designed to be easily disassembled and reassembled, meaning you won't have to be a mechanical genius to work on Aptera. The tri-motor all-wheel drive goes from 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds flat, which is faster than a 2023 Porsche 718 Cayman GTS. But when talking to a crowd during the Fully Charged Live event in September, co-CEO Chris Anthony said this was just the spec for the 400-mile version, with the 600 and 1000-mile versions being slightly slower, and the 250-mile version being slightly faster, which checks out if you know a thing or two about physics. So you want to win a race? Better get that 250-mile all-wheel drive version. If you're a proper fan of Aptera, then you probably know and love Chris McCammon, who is the content specialist. Shout out to Chris. But what you may not have known is that he's been working behind the scenes on the autonomy system. Before Aptera, he spent nearly 2 years at Kame AI, the company behind OpenPilot, the open-source, semi-automated driving system. While there, he was head of communications and later also head of production. This may be a clue as to what to expect when it comes to Aptera's safety pilot and future self-driving capabilities. In September 2022, Chris McCammon said that Aptera is exploring a lot of different Advanced Driver Assistance Systems, or ADAS right now, and will have more information to share in the coming months. The company is exploring having Level 2 autonomy options that are over-the-air upgradable, though recent developments suggest the front camera will be available in a hardware upgrade. Nathan Armstrong, Aptera CTO, has previously said that there are 4 to 5 companies that have full plug-and-play self-driving systems, so he believes bringing the tech to Aptera will be relatively straightforward. That being said, Kame AI is a likely choice. While the focus is on delivering Safety Pilot in the near term, there is room for even more exciting self-driving features for Aptera over time. We also learned from the CTO that Aptera's charging connector was going to be moved from the back of the Alpha vehicle to the front, since the whole hiding the license plate thing could be a little dodgy. The proposed solution was to put the connector on the hood where the logo is on Alpha and Gamma, since there is ample space. However, the team went with the more elegant solution of keeping the connector behind the license plate by simply changing a flip up to a swivel. Jason Hill, Chief of Design, has been a mobility and transportation designer for nearly 30 years. Early in his career, he was brought into the Mercedes-Benz design studio, designing the MCC Smart Eco Speedster and Eco Sprinter, which became the Smart Car. Also, he was the first designer for the Porsche American Design Studio, becoming the lead exterior designer for the Carrera GT. He now works very closely with Aptera's co-CEOs to bring the ethos of efficiency to life. By simply asking, what if? He has contributed core ideas, including to create a 1,000-mile version.
We were talking about what the range should be. And Steve and Chris were doing their math and they said, hey, this is great. It looks like we can get 5, maybe even 600 miles. And I said, who cares? Give me 1,000. Can you do 1,000? And they're like, well, no, let's see what we can do. So they came back and they said, you know what? We found out that with all the advances and the way we're doing things, we should be able to get 1,000 miles range out of a 100 kilowatt pack. And I said, okay, that's the goal.
Prior to the launch of the Alpha prototype, Jason Hill played a pivotal role in what is now an iconic look for the solar cells.
So we started laying out cells basically on the shape, and we didn't want this, again, because the cells are so lightweight and they flex in one direction really well, we started looking at fitting them on the existing surface, and we found that we could get a fair amount. And then I just we were kind of a stumbling block, and I looked and I'm like, something's not right. We're not doing this right. And I turned them on a 45. So I went from a square pattern layout to a diamond pattern. And that ended up adding something like 25 or 30% more cells overall.
Early in the company's history, the co-CEOs needed to get external validation of the aerodynamics for the very first Alpha prototype vehicle. At that time, the vehicle had a drag coefficient of just 0.09. The 3D computer model of the vehicle was sent to the NASA Langley Research Center to be ran through a digital low-speed wind tunnel. NASA scientists ran the computational fluid dynamics on Aptera, and based on the results, thought something had gone completely wrong. So NASA called up the co-CEOs, as Chris Anthony explained to a crowd here.
And they called us up and they were like, there's something wrong with our aerodynamic simulation here. We think we need to talk through. And basically we had 8 NASA engineers on the phone, and we had to explain to them what ground effect is, the high pressure zone that's created in front of the vehicle, right, and how on the ground that high pressure has nowhere to go. In the air, in a missile or an airplane, you don't have to worry about that because there's no deflection point. So, we felt we got our money's worth because we had to explain to these NASA engineers, and we realized then that if NASA can't help you make a more aerodynamic vehicle, no one can.
Not only did the early Alpha prototype appear in the 2009 Star Trek movie, but according to Aptera's website, it was also animated for an episode of Family Guy. If you know which episode this is from, please share it in the comments. And we've saved the best for last, but before we do, if you found anything interesting, be sure to like the video, click the subscribe button below, and join our membership to take things to the next level. Check out my referral link below to save $30 on an Aptera pre-order. Thanks for watching, and now we'll leave it to Nathan Armstrong, the CTO, to settle once and for all, does it float?
Will it float? Yes, it will. It absolutely will. Even with the doors open, it'll still float. Like the structure itself is inherently boat-like, and would float, yeah. In fact, with that smooth belly, if you enter the water fast enough, you'd probably skip along for a while before you stopped as well. In fact, you probably would actually drive in the water.